Hi, I'm your State Representative Annette Glenn. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Hometown Heroes. Each episode of Hometown Heroes will feature community leaders, local nonprofits, and others who make a significant positive impact in the 98th District. The place we call home has so much to be proud of. I hope you enjoy learning from our hometown heroes. As always, if you ever have any questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to contact my office. Enjoy the show.
Hello and welcome to Hometown Heroes with Representative Annette Glenn. And Representative Annette Glenn, it's nice to see you. Welcome back.
John, it is great to be back, and I am privileged to have Tom Talbot here. He is the director of the Legion Riders in Sanford. Tom, thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
So Tom, I understand you served in Vietnam. Would you share with us a little bit about that? Or a lot?
I can't talk about that much.
But it sounds as though that now in your community, you're doing a lot of work to support your colleagues and our veterans.
Yes. Yep. I was in Vietnam in 1970 to 71. I was in a combat engineer battalion on the DMZ.
So when you came back, what did you find?
Unemployment. I wasn't one of the ones that had rocks thrown at me, or nobody spit at me, but you could kind of feel walking through the airports, you could kind of feel the stares and the looks, and it was just the atmosphere there was something wrong. But it was good to be home.
It was good to be home. So unemployment, what happened after that?
They had in 72 and 73, they had a kind of a push to hire Vietnam veterans. And I was fortunate enough to get a good job at Saginaw Steering Gear and made a good living for me and my family.
And I understand now that there's a number of support groups that you have helped organize, that you run.
I organized one. I run 3 other ones. My cousin just passed away. He was a Vietnam veteran that died of pancreatic cancer. He had 5 PTSD support groups.
Wow.
And just before he died, he asked me to take over 3 of them. So I do his 3, I do mine, and then I do the Legion Riders stuff.
Can you tell us about each one of those?
Well, the Legion Riders is, we do, and I'll probably forget some of this stuff, but we do, in December we do a Toys for Kids. We give Midland County schools, Bullet Creek, Meridian, and Coleman. We helped 130 kids have a good Christmas last year.
Great.
In the springtime, we do what we call an after-tax party, where our group smokes briskets and sells them for a fundraiser to help us do the things we do all year long.
That's great.
This year we did a ride for Justin Beadle, who was the young man that got shot in the UP deer hunting last year, or in the northern Michigan. I mean, not the UP. We do a ride for him. We made $21,000 this year on that ride.
Wow.
And his family did just a tremendous job with the silent auction gifts and the food and stuff. So we do a ride for the Ryan Burgess Foundation.
I was there.
We did the flag, it's not a memorial, it's a flag monument in Sanford, which is, if anybody ever goes through Sanford, they should stop and look at that. It's pretty cool. we have another ride coming up in the 21st of September for the Blue Star Mothers. Them proceeds go so they can send packages overseas.
I'm an honorary member. I had a son-in-law that was serving and a nephew, multiple nephews that were serving, but not an immediate family member, so they let me join as an associate member. So I've helped at that one a number of years too.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good cause, it really is.
So I've been there, I've seen the riders. Why don't you tell us kind of how a ride starts, good number of how many participate, and then kind of what happens while you guys are gone. I see you leave and I see you come back.
Well, a lot of this all depends on the weather. If you got a good weather day, you normally get over 100 bikes, you know, and so we figure out a different bar to go to, and we make a route, and on this route, we usually have 50-50 drawings at each stop that we make.
Okay, that's why the stops.
Yep. And all the places that we go to, they always donate to our cause, or they might give a silent auction gift or something like that. So usually ends up being 3 stops. This one we have in September is 2 stops, and they're both American Legions and then back to our posts. So.
Well, that's great. So I've been there when 100 or more bikes have shown up with the memorial walls. Can you share with us a little bit about how we got to have those in Sanford and the walls themselves?
The commander, the first time he did this, and I think this is the 8th year that we've done it, the commander arranged to have this wall here. And he said something about a motorcycle escort to the past commander. The past commander had a relative that rides with us. He doesn't anymore, but he used to. And he set this ride up to escort this wall. And it's just been a tremendous thing. We usually get well over 100 bikes for this escort. The people in Midland don't show out for it very well, which is a sad thing. We've escorted that wall on the west side of the state and on the east side of the state, and there's people lined up just about the whole route. In Midland, you don't get that, you know.
They tend to congregate at the Sanford Legion Hall and wait for you.
Yeah, yeah. But that's how that started. Andy Herman started the motorcycle escort.
Okay.
He did a tremendous job.
So there's 2 different walls. Tell us about those walls.
Actually, there's 3.
There's 3.
There's a Michigan Vietnam wall, there's a national Vietnam wall, and then there's one about the Iraq and Afghanistan, but I can't remember the name. Can you tell me what the name of that wall is?
Fallen heroes or fallen military heroes.
Yeah, and we've had them there once, and that's mostly the younger Iraq, Afghanistan guys.
And it's a good size when they bring it in and they set it up, and it's 30, 40. It's a good size when it's set up.
The national wall is each wing. It's a 50% replica of the real wall.
Wow.
And each wing was 27 feet, I believe. We had that there in 16, and the guy that brought the wall said that he had never seen a turnout like that. And there's a guy in Midland that runs he has a veterans memorial thing where he has all different like uniforms and letters and all different kinds of memorabilia. He said that he has a sign-up book, and he said he had never had anybody sign, and that's what he does, is goes to these walls. He has never had as many people sign up as he did that day in Sanford.
Wow.
It was tremendous.
I was amazed at what it was like the first time I went to just be there. I didn't start in Midland. I'd been told to come to Sanford and wait in Sanford, and to see motorcycle after motorcycle, flag after flag after flag. It's sobering, and certainly a feeling of patriotism and honor for those that have given and paid the ultimate price.
Yes.
Do you think, compared to what you were saying, back when you came home in the 70s and Vietnam was around 50 years ago now, that maybe people are more aware of the service and the sacrifice involved?
Well, I think that because of what we went through, the guys today have it a lot better coming back than we did. And most of them, they thank us, because we kind of paved the way to make that better for them. I'm not really so sure that our politicians and our Veterans Administration, I don't think that they're on board with us yet. I don't think they treat us right, and I don't think they ever have.
And as a whole, or depending on when you served, does it seem to make a difference?
Well, I think it's the Vietnam guys.
Okay, so still taking a little bit of a brunt.
I think so. And that's just my opinion,
All right, 5 support groups. There's 3 that you took over. Tell me about those.
Well, they're just most of them. Most of the guys in there are Vietnam combat vets that just want to talk. Pretty laid back, and it's like you can talk about anything you want. You can talk about your kids, your grandkids, your job. You can talk about the war, whatever you feel like talking about, whatever helps you.
And how long have they been going on?
I think my cousin started the when he did 5. I think he started them in like 05 or something like that. He was quite an advocate for veterans. He spent just about every day at the VA hospital volunteering. He asked me to. The VA sent me down here to Lansing to take their the mental health thing for peer support specialist. And I did that wanting to volunteer at the VA, and then they wouldn't let us do it anymore after that. So they sent me to school, and then they wouldn't use me. So I started a vet-to-vet group that runs once a month in Midland at the VFW Hall in Bay City. And most of those guys, not all of them, most of them are Vietnam combat guys. We have some that come now and then that was from Iraq, Afghanistan. It's hard to get the young guys to do anything. I know, like us, when we come home, it was 30, 35 years before we would do anything like that.
Before you were ready.
I worked with a guy for years. Him and I used to cut firewood together and everything after work, and we hung out, and he told me one day, he said, I never knew you was in Vietnam until I seen you here at the VA. And I said, well, we didn't talk about Vietnam. We didn't talk about it. And that's pretty much the way these young guys are. They're not going to come out. The Legions and the VFWs still wondering, how can we get these guys here? Well, until they're ready, they ain't going to.
Well, and I know with the American Legion, the policy used to be, unless you served during a time with a declared war, you didn't qualify to be a member of the American Legion. And the current administration has now acknowledged that you've all been serving in war, whether it was declared or not, and opened that up. Do you think that's going to change, making people feel more welcome and ready to join the Legion maybe sooner?
Yeah, I hope so. I think it's a good idea. If somebody was in during a time when there wasn't a conflict, it wasn't their fault. They served, they signed up to serve just like we did, so they was ready, they signed their name.
How long have the Riders been in existence?
I'm not sure. Ours has been 5 years. It'll be 5 years in December.
Okay, so did you start the Riders?
Yeah.
Yeah? How'd that come about?
The guy that was the bar manager at the Legion at the time talked me into it. I didn't think that it would be anything like it is. This thing has been amazing, and it's not just me. It's a team, But in in the past 5 years, we've raised over $50,000 and gave it away
Wow.
for charities and people with cancer, Blue Star Mothers.
And there are groups like this across Michigan and across the country, too. You multiply that, that's a lot of help.
Do you communicate with the other rider groups?
Yes. We communicate a lot with the Saginaw Post 22 guys, the Harrison guys, and the Farwell guys.
Nice. Any kind of a national organization that brings you guys together at a national level?
I'm not sure about a national. I know there is a state.
Okay.
But I don't know if I've never done anything with the state. But
Well, I'm glad you do stuff with the local. So 5 years ago, what was how'd you start things off?
the first thing is that my main thing was I wanted to bring that wall. I was at the bar there in Sanford one day when my aunt asked me, "Well, what are you going to do? What are they going to do?" And I said, "I want to bring the national wall here." One of the women sat next to me said, "Oh man, that would be so cool. My brother's name's on that wall." The past commander told me, "Well, you can't do that. You'll never be able to make that happen." So we did it. And the day we were setting that wall up, he come up and shook my hand and he said, "I'm so glad you proved me wrong." You know, but that was a tremendous thing. And then people just would come to us and ask us, "Hey, I got this, my daughter is dying of cancer and, she needs help with her medical stuff," and we would have a ride for them and raise money for them.
So real focus on helping the community then.
Right, yep. When we have a ride, 100% of the funds that we raise go towards that cause. We don't keep any of it. We do the dinner in the spring that adds money to our account so we can do these things all summer long.
Well, and if I remember, you guys sign up to pay to be in your own ride.
Yep,
And then when you show up at the Legion Hall, you pay for dinner.
yep,
And then you bid on the silent auction items.
yep. And we do all the work, too.
So you line up the riders, you all pay registration.
So it's service and sacrifice.
Yes, yes, yep. And we have a good group, we really do. I mean, every group, has a core that does things, and we have a really good group.
So I imagine Harrison will come down and help with these rides, and Saginaw will come participate.
Yep.
And then you turn around and help Harrison with their rides
Right,
in
yep.
Saginaw. So personally, how many rides do you typically do a year?
Probably 5.
And how much time does it take to organize one that you're putting on at the Sanford Legion?
We started working on the Blue Star Mothers ride last month. And we probably would have started earlier than that, but we was working on other stuff too, so.
So it's a good 6 weeks,
Yeah.
minimum.
Yeah.
So pick the dates and then 6 weeks of effort of getting things together.
Yep,
That's impressive. Thank you.
you're welcome.
And really the work that you do, I'm thinking if you go across the street here to the Capitol, there are a lot of memorials, Civil War especially at the Capitol, but there's the Vietnam Monument down by the Supreme Court and World War II. Fact of the matter is this is another way of, honoring all our veterans and having them contribute, again, to our communities.
Yeah, yep.
Well, you served your country, and you continue to serve your country year in and year out. Thanks, Tom.
Yep.
All right, I told you I was going to ask you about your jacket. You've got a lot of patches on there. Should tell me about a good part of those.
Well, this one is for post-traumatic stress. It says not all wounds are visible.
That's true.
This one is Southeast Asian War Games participant. This one here is about Vietnam. It says if you haven't been there, shut your mouth. Patriot Guard Riders. just a tremendous organization, just tremendous. This is the Agent Orange Health Club. This is the unit that I was in Vietnam with.
And then you've got some pins.
Yeah, the pins are, this is a combat engineer ribbon.
Okay.
This is, this badge is, I used to hang out with some, the Blue Knights. They're retired policemen and firemen riders.
Oh.
And like I'd meet them at a bar over in Bay City for a bike night over there, and I would have a couple beers and then leave, and they'd say, well, why are you leaving so early? And I said, well, I don't have a get out of jail free card like you. So they brought me a badge. I don't think it'd do much good. I don't know what I have on the back. I have a combat engineer badge back here, and I got our Legion Riders patch back there.
So what do you have to do to get those patches?
Usually just a lot of the rides and stuff. Well, not so much the rides, but like Bubba's Tri-City Cycle over in Linwood, he sells a lot of patches. And if you go to some of the big swap meets and stuff, they have patches. If you find one you like, you buy it and have it sewed on.
So one that speaks to you at the moment.
Yep.
So I want to talk a little bit about this training that you did, that then you didn't get to use at the VA, and how that helps you with the support groups that you run.
That training, they figured out that your peer is your best support system. In other words, like an alcoholic is best supported and helped by another alcoholic because he knows what you're going through. Say a rape victim is better to be counseled and cared for by another rape victim because they understand. Same with combat. People that went through it know, and they understand, and they're better suited to counsel somebody like that.
So how long was the training? You said you came to Lansing.
It was a week, and then we had class for a week, and then I think it was like 2 weeks later, we had overnight, like a refresher thing, and then the next day was the test.
Okay, tell me about the test.
I can't remember much about the test. I couldn't believe I passed.
My daughter is studying what I tend to call a conflict management degree, but part of that is she actually has to get together with people that are having issues and help them work through it. Did they have you guys do any of that, like practice sessions?
No, I don't think they did. No.
Maybe not have needed to since you've lived it.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
So the 3 support groups, when do they meet? If somebody's looking for some help, how do they get a hold of you or somebody else?
2 of them are at the mental health annex at the VA hospital.
Okay.
And I don't necessarily run those 2. I set in and help because they won't let the volunteers do it anymore. So the other one, because they took away, we used to meet once a week. The VA took half of that away. They would only let us meet twice a month. So on the off months, we meet at American Legion and on Weiss and Saginaw Tuesdays at noon.
Okay.
And that's one of them that my cousin asked me to take over, or the 3 of them was the ones that he asked me to do. He had another guy from Saginaw do the 2 that he had in the other part of Saginaw.
What does it take to get somebody to finally make that decision to come in and say, I'm ready to heal more?
I think that's just, it's like an alcoholic. When you finally figure out that you've gone down as far as you can go, you gotta, it's just time to get some help. We had a guy in our group Tuesday that it was his first time there. said, you know, I hope you come back. He said, I'll be back. You know, he's got to go get his doctor, his VA doctor, to say, hey, this guy needs to go to this group, you know, and they'll let him come to it. So.
Okay. So my dad served in World War II, and so did my father-in-law. And I can count on one hand, and it's not full, of how many times they were willing to discuss any of that with us. Do you think it's important for our current vets, those that were in Vietnam and Afghanistan, to share with those of us that were not there, those of us that benefit from your sacrifice and your service?
It's kind of, you don't talk about it to people that wasn't there. I worked with a guy, he had a boat and we used to fish salmon a lot together. And he told me one day that his brother was in Vietnam and he never talks about it. Yeah. So the three of us went out on his boat in Lake Huron fishing one day, and Stanley said to his brother, Tom was in Vietnam. Oh, and he started talking to me, and he talked just about nonstop for 3 hours. And the next day when I seen Stanley at work, he said, I never heard Phil talk about that like that before. I said, well, you've never probably seen him when he was around another Vietnam veteran before.
Tom, thank you. Thank you for serving, and thank you for continuing to serve, and for the lives that you continue to bless every day and every year.
You're welcome.
Thanks for coming down. I know you didn't want to be here.
And thank you for joining us.